Nada loved the sound of rain on the window panes of the medical library. It wasn't just a sound. It was a rhythm that mimicked her heartbeat the first time she held a book on human anatomy, a slow, reverent pace, then a subtle acceleration, as if something momentous was about to be born. In that distant corner of the third floor where scarcely anyone ventured except final-year students obsessed with exams, she sat every night after 6. Sipping her black coffee unsweetened and jotting down notes in tiny handwriting that was legible only to her own eyes. Nada was the daughter of a pharmacist from a working-class neighborhood in Aleppo. Her family had emigrated to Beirut after a bombing had leveled her father's shop. She carried little with her besides an excellent high school diploma, a backpack containing torn photos of her grandfather, and an unyielding resolve. She entered the Faculty of Medicine at Beirut Arab University on a full scholarship, and tutored her peers in the evenings to cover the costs of transportation and books. She wasn't looking for love, nor a savior. She was looking for 2 hands with which to build a small hospital in her neighborhood one day, nothing more. On one of those rainy evenings, a young man entered the library wearing a long coat darker than the color of his eyes. He didn't look around but headed directly to the rare bookshelf in the eastern wing, a place visited only by researchers or the obsessed. He sat 2 tables away from her, reading a book on neuroscience, his hand trembling slightly as he turned the page. Nada noticed him without showing interest, but she also noticed a long scar on his left hand, as if a knife had crossed it long ago. Days passed, then weeks. He began to appear at the same time, in the same place. He never spoke to her, but one night, when her pen rolled off the table, he picked it up and placed it in front of her silently, then returned to his seat. She looked at him, and their eyes met eyes that looked like 2 closed lakes, their depths unreadable. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're Nada, aren't you?" he said in a low voice, as if afraid to awaken something sleeping in the air. She was surprised. "How did you know?" "I heard you tutoring a group in Hall 4. You were explaining the mechanism of skeletal muscle contraction." With rare clarity, she smiled but didn't reply. She wasn't accustomed to compliments, or to strangers who knew her name without introduction. The next day, she found a note on her table written in elegant handwriting. "The mind is not healed by medicine alone. Sometimes it needs someone to listen to it." It was unsigned. The following morning, as she was preparing for her pharmacology exam, her colleague Layla rushed in, breathless. "Did you hear about Ziad al-Hanbali?" Nada looked up without raising her head. "No, who is he?" "The son of the al-Hanbali family. They own the al-Hanbali hospital chain. They say he's a genius, but he dropped out for a whole year after his brother died, and now he's back, but he doesn't mix with anyone." Nada slowly raised her eyes. "Ziad?" "Yes, you see him in the library all the time, don't you?" She didn't answer, but her heart, for the first time in years, began to beat to a rhythm unrelated to anatomy. In the evening, she found him waiting for her at the library door, his hand in his coat pocket, his face paler than usual. "I know you don't trust strangers," he said without preamble, "and I'm not here to ask for your friendship, but could you allow me to sit with you sometimes? Not to talk, just to be where you are." She looked at him for a long time. She saw no greed in his eyes, nor curiosity, but a muffled pain, as if he carried a corpse in his chest and didn't know where to bury it. "As long as it doesn't interrupt my studying," she finally said, "do as you wish." He managed a faint smile, as if this was the first time he had allowed himself to do so in a long while. Days passed, and the silence between them became a conversation, and proximity became a language. But Nada never stopped pursuing her dream. She studied, tutored, wrote, planned. And love, if it were to come, would have to walk beside her, not in front of her to lead, nor behind her to protect. On one quiet night, as she was explaining to him how to treat barbiturate poisoning, he suddenly reached out and lightly touched the back of her hand with an almost imperceptible brush. "Sometimes," he whispered, "I feel like you are the only antibiotic that works for me." She didn't reply, but she didn't withdraw her hand. From afar, the rain began to fall again on the window panes, as if the sky was whispering, "The story hasn't started yet. It has only begun to breathe." Part 2. Nada was not the type to quickly interpret emotions. She analyzed them first, Just as she analyzed an electrocardiogram, she looked for the normal rhythm, then watched for any disturbance that might signal impending danger. So, when she began to feel that Ziad's presence in the library was no longer just a quiet background, but had become a part of her daily rhythm, like coffee, like books, like the dim light illuminating her table corner, she examined the matter cautiously. Ziad was different from everyone she had known. He didn't flaunt his wealth, ask for favors, or ever show that his family owned half of Beirut's hospitals. On the contrary, he avoided talking about himself as if he feared that some secret might be revealed. But he listened with rare patience to every word she spoke about her dreams, about her small clinic in her neighborhood, her desire to train nurses from local girls, and her ambition to establish a free addiction treatment unit after seeing how cocaine had destroyed the life of a childhood friend. One night, while she was reviewing hypothetical patient files as part of her graduation project, he suddenly asked, "Do you think a person can forgive themselves?" She raised her eyes. He was looking at his left hand, the one with the scar. "It depends," she replied calmly, "on what they did." He was silent for a long time. Then he spoke, as if pulling a secret from the bottom of a dark well. "My younger brother died in a car accident. I was driving. I was drunk." She said nothing. She didn't offer a ready-made condolence or a quick judgment. She simply closed her file and placed her hand over his, not to erase the scar, but to say, "I am here, even if the past is heavy." As weeks passed, Ziad began to appear in places she hadn't expected. Once, she found him waiting for her at the university gate after an evening lecture, holding hot ginger tea for her, just as she had once mentioned her mother used to make when she was exhausted from studying. Another time, she found a message in her bag. "I went to your neighborhood today. I saw the building you want to turn into a clinic. The walls are cracked, but the light you envision there, I see it too." These were not traditional words of love. They were an admission. "I see your dream, and I respect it." But challenges were quick to arrive. One day, Nada walked into the lecture hall to find Ziad sitting in the front row, next to a student wearing an expensive dress and holding a gold phone. She showed no reaction, but her heart shrank as if it had lost its breath. After the lecture, Ziad approached her quickly. "That's Layla Al-Hanbali, my cousin. She wanted to do a press interview with me about returning to studies. I refused, but she insisted on sitting next to me to take a family photo." She looked at him. "Layla? The same Layla who told me you dropped out after your brother's death?" "Yes. And she's also the one who posted your photo in a private student group, with a sarcastic comment about the girl who studies medicine by day and cleans labs by night. Not a frozen place. She didn't know anyone had seen her cleaning the labs. She did it secretly in exchange for a token payment that helped her cover her small roomie's rent. I didn't tell them anything," she whispered, as if defending her dignity to herself more than to him. "I know," Ziad said, his eyes burning. "That's why I stopped the interview. And I asked my uncle to end our family's relationship with the family newspaper. They were angry, but I no longer care." His words were not a means to rescue her. They were a choice. A difficult choice, costing him a lot. Yet, she didn't allow herself to melt in a moment of gratitude, because she had learned long ago, no one saves you but yourself. Mid-semester, a prestigious research fellowship was announced at Oxford University, including full funding for a master's degree in emergency medicine. Nada had applied secretly, without telling anyone, not even Ziad. But he knew. He found the application form tucked between the pages of her book one night. The next day, he didn't come to the library. A day passed, then 2 days. On the third day, she found him sitting on the steps of the back building, smoking a cigarette and staring at the sky. She had never seen him smoke before. "Are you leaving?" he asked without looking at her. "I don't know yet. The decision hasn't been made. If it is, will you leave?" She paused. Then she said in a voice that allowed no pleasantries, "Yes, I will leave. Because this is part of my dream. Not all of it, but a big part." He slowly put out the cigarette. "I don't deserve to stand in your way." "You are not in my way," she said, standing before him. "You, if you are real, will be part of the path itself. But don't ask me to stop." He finally looked at her. In his eyes, there was no anger, no pleading, but something deeper, a bitter acceptance, and a love that asked for nothing in return. I will be here, he said, whatever you decide. That night, as she was writing notes on hypoperfusion shock, she heard his steps approaching. He placed a small brown envelope in front of her. Don't open it now, he said. Only open it if you decide to stay, or if you decide to leave. Then he walked away, leaving her alone with the sound of the rain, and a question spinning in her head. Can love grow without consuming the dream? Or is true love the kind that gives you wings, even if it means losing its own? And from afar, the rain seemed to pray for an answer that no one yet knew. Part 3 weeks passed, heavy as lead. Ziad did not return to the library. He didn't send a message. He rarely appeared in lectures, and when he did, he sat in the furthest row, withdrawn as if trying to disappear. Nada, for her part, focused on her studies more than ever. She was finalizing her graduation project on the neural response to psychological trauma in conflict zones, inspired by Ziad without mentioning him. She wrote about him in every line, but under a pseudonym, Patient Z. S. Ziad Salim. On a cold October morning, the email she had been waiting for arrived. Congratulations, Nada Hijazi. You have been accepted into the master's program in emergency medicine at Oxford University. She didn't scream. She didn't dance. She sat on the edge of her small bed, staring at the screen until her eyes blurred. Then she closed it and placed her hand on her chest, as if reassuring her heart that this was not a dream. In the evening, she went to the library. She didn't look for him, but she sat in their old corner and opened the brown envelope he had given her weeks ago. Inside, one sheet of paper written in his hand. If you open this, you have either decided to stay or to leave. I don't want to burden your heart with my plea, but if you leave, know that I will miss the sound of your mind more than the sound of your voice. And if you stay, I will do everything in my power never to be the reason for your delay. You are not just a dream to me. You are my way back to being human. See? She slowly folded the paper and placed it in her shirt pocket, directly over her heart. The next day, she went to the main El Hanbali hospital. She didn't ask to see him. Instead, she asked to see his father. She sat in the luxurious reception room, wearing her simple medical jacket, while waitresses served coffee in porcelain cups. After half an hour, a man in his 60s entered, his hair neatly styled, his eyes bearing an authority that was not to be questioned. Nada Hijazi, he said, looking at her as if assessing the value of a commodity. Yes, sir. I would like to talk to you about Ziad. He offered a cold smile. All girls want to talk about Ziad. But you are different. You're the only one who didn't ask him for anything, because I don't want anything from him, she said steadily. I just want you to know, he is not broken. He is broken because of you. The man froze in place. You made him feel that his life was worthless after his brother died. You turned grief into shame. And you are the ones who prevented him from seeking psychological help, because an Al Hanbali does not see a psychiatrist. She didn't raise her voice, but her words were like cuts. I am not asking for his hand, nor your wealth, but I am asking you to let him breathe, to allow him to live, even if he is not as you want him to be. There was a long silence. Then the man whispered, his voice almost breaking, how long have you known him like this? Since he allowed me to see his wound, without asking me to bandage it. That night, as she was packing her bags in preparation for her departure, for the decision had been made, and the opportunity was irreplaceable, there was a knock at the door. She opened it and found him standing in the hallway, wearing his long coat, his eyes red. I heard you saw my father, he said. Yes. And you told him you didn't ask for anything, because I don't want to be part of a deal. I want to be part of a free choice. Silence. Then he reached out and placed a small key in her palm. This is for a building in your neighborhood. I bought it a month ago. It was abandoned, but the engineers have started the renovation. It will be ready in 2 years. She looked at him, astonished. Why? Because you deserve to start your dream where you wanted to, not where reality allows you. But this is too much. It's no more than your worth. She sighed, her eyes welling up. I'm leaving, Ziad. I know. And I will come back. I know that too. So, can you wait? He smiled, a sad, but sincere, smile. No, but I can continue. Like you, on the morning of her departure, he stood at the airport. He didn't kiss her. He didn't hug her. He just held her hand for a few seconds, then said, "Go, and build your world, and I will build myself here. So there will be a place for you when you return." She boarded the plane, her heart torn between the dream and the love. But she had no regrets, because she hadn't chosen one at the expense of the other. Instead, she had chosen to be whole: a doctor, a woman, a friend, and a beloved, all without losing herself. A year passed, then 2 years. In Oxford, Nada became one of the brightest students in her program. In Beirut, Ziad completed his studies and started a specialized program to support young people with PTSD, using his own experience as a bridge to others. In an annual letter, she wrote to him, "The clinic is now called Noor Light. It is neither my name nor yours, but it is the light we created together, without extinguishing each other." In the autumn of 2025, Nada returned to Beirut. She didn't go home first. Instead, she went to the old neighborhood, to the new building with the white facade and wide windows. She walked inside and found him standing in the reception area, wearing a simple medical jacket, teaching a group of new nurses how to handle cases of psychological trauma. He raised his eyes and saw her. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He simply paused and smiled, a serene smile, as if time hadn't passed, as if hearts hadn't been torn, as if the dream had never been far away. "Welcome, Dr. Nada," he said. "Welcome, Dr. Ziad," she replied. And from the clinic window, warm sunlight streamed in, touching their nearing hands, not as lovers meeting after separation, but as partners who had arrived together, each on their own path, to the same place. Love did not save her. Love did not save him. But love, when it respected their dreams, became a bridge, not a prison. And in the corner of the clinic, on the wall, was written in simple handwriting, "Here, we don't just treat the body, we rebuild hope." And that, in the end, was the greatest medicine they had invented together.